And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at the Kingdom of Loathing's Mr. Card Game. Now, if you see this on the shelf and you know nothing about Kingdom of Loathing, this box might turn you off. What are they even talking about? Let me give you a quick background to Kingdom of Loathing, since I have played Kingdom of Loathing quite a bit. Kingdom of Loathing is an online multiplayer game, but instead of being like most games where you run around and you're fighting all different monsters, this is a turn-based one where you click on things and take a certain number of turns. You get a certain number of turns every day. You can use various ways to get more turns, but you have a certain number of turns each day. And you can play the game by yourself, and there's ways to play with other people, and there's extensive chat rooms and such. Kingdom of Loathing has the artwork of stick figures. Very, very basic artwork. Everything in the game is very low-level stick figure artwork. However, the game is also invaded by a gigantic amount of humorous activity. The game is filled with a lot of references to pretty much everything in existence, from pop culture to comics to things that actually happened in history to clever puns, etc. And the gameplay is constantly being added to and changed all the time. Almost every week there's some sort of new content that they add. The game started from a very simple thing. I played the game when it first came out. It was very simple. It was entertaining but very simple. Now it's become this very gigantic, engrossing game that you can play all the time. And even for board gamers, there's a pretty heavy economic part of it where you buy and sell different things, and it's just fun to see what kind of money you can get from that. Now, I say all that because obviously I'm a big fan of the game, of the Kingdom of Loathing. The only reason I don't play it now is mostly for time purposes, because it was eating up a lot of my time. But this game itself, I'm going to look at this based on from a fan perspective, but also what if you're not a fan, what will be like. Let's take a look at Mr. Card Game. There's a lot of different things going on in this game, a lot of different cards. One of the things that I wanted to point out here is that we have the resource in this game is not money, but it's meat. And I thought it was pretty cool that the little meat tokens fit into each other. They have these grooves. All right, it's not a big deal, but I thought it was cool. All right, there's a lot of different cards on the middle of the table, but what we want to concentrate are some cards that you start with. You have a handful of cards. You'll get some muscle cards, some mysticality cards, and some moxie cards. You get these, and you'll mix these up, and this will create your deck. All the cards you get are level 1s of those cards. As you can see, there's 2, 3s, and 4s of those types there also. So you're going to take this deck, and you're going to draw cards from this deck. Each player also gets some starting equipment here. Here you see your Sweet Ninja Sword, your studded leather boxer shorts, and your Kentucky-style derby. Now, each of these provides different resources or different stats in combat. You're only allowed to have one weapon, pants, and hat, and so as the game progresses, you'll probably upgrade one or all of them. But for example, a weapon can be used to do some melee damage to an opponent, and it has a pink there on it to show that that works with muscle cards because they are also pink. The studded leather boxer shorts and the Kentucky style derby, they both work in defense, and defense uses smarm to go with it. Later on, players might be able to get spells, and spells will work with mysticality cards. And there's also a few ranged weapons in the game, and if you have a ranged weapon like this one here, the Didgeriduca, if you have this weapon, it will also work with moxie cards. Now, what players are going to do on their turn, the first thing that the player is going to do on their turn is they're going to gear up. They have a non-combat phase. And this is mostly a phase where they're going to maybe switch out their weapons. If you have different weapons, you can have one weapon and a thing. You also have a chance to go up here to where there's a deck of class skills. And you're able to buy these class skills with any meat that you might have. Each of these skills will give different things. For example, these nimble fingers give you a meat drop. Which every time you beat an enemy, the number of meat you get for an enemy will increase by 3. Next to it here, you see a song, the Fat Land's Fat Loot lyric, which has an auto sell +2, means whenever you sell something, you get an extra 2 for it. And there's a song limit of 3, which means you can only have 3 songs in play. This is a buff, which means you have to pay 1 to activate it. So once it's activated, it will be in effect all the time. Some things will have just an instant that you have to play to use them. For example, this lunging thrust smack here gives you +2 to a melee strike, and it costs 1 to use it. Other ones will add something that's in effect all the time, like this northern exposure, which gives you defense against cold monsters by 2. And so there are many different skills involved. Some of them are spells, some of them add to your attacks. So you're able to buy these and place these in front of you. You also have the chance to buy cards from any discarded cards that people get rid of. As the game progresses, players are going to get different items that they can use or sell, and so there's a cost at the top, and you can buy the top one off of the draw pile. Now, after you're done with your non-combat, you're going to go to your combat. To go to combat, you're going to come here, and there's 9 cards here, 9 stacks of cards. Each card corresponds to a certain map location. For example, this is the mysterious island of mystery. Now, each of these is going to have a deck of monster cards underneath it, and you're going to place 1 monster on top of each of these. And basically what this does is they're basically for all different levels. So you can see here's in this section over here, which is the seaside town, using pretty low level monsters. That's a level 1. Over here we got level 3, level 4, all the way up to this War Hippie Dread Squad is a level 17. Now you're trying to get enough strength to go fight the Naughty Sorceress over here, who is a level 20, although the game also includes a level 25 Naughty Sorceress if you'd like to fight her. When you go to fight one of these creatures, so let's say we're going to go fight here the Gritty Pirate. We're going to need 13 strength to take care of him. Now I can get that by either using a melee attack and adding muscle cards to it from my hand to go over 13, maybe with buffs and skills added in too, or I can use a magic skill and add mysticality cards from my hand until I get to 13, or maybe I can get a defense and add agility cards. The game is a little odd that it makes defense a way to defeat enemies, but that's how it is. So let's say I managed to defeat this enemy. So I say, okay, I'm going to defeat him. First of all, he's going to give me 5 meat. He's also going to give me a new stat card that I will add to my discard pile. So this gives me a 3 mysticality card. And then I will flip the card over, and he becomes a new piece of weaponry, or maybe he's an item. In this instance, he's a key hauling knife. This is melee damage +3 and spell damage +3. And it has an auto sell here at the bottom. I can always sell this for 4 meat if I don't want it. There's also a power on many of the different weapons. This one has a power 3. That's because some stats and some piece of equipment will reference a power. They might say you get a bonus of whatever your power is added to your weapon. Now when this is, you beat this guy, you'll take the weapon, and then the next person will come to the top from the bottom of the pile. So this happens to be the Warty Pirate. And you can see he's a very different person. So players are going to do that. When your turn's over, you can discard as many cards from your hand as you want and draw new ones. Now eventually you're going to run out of cards to draw. When that happens, a couple things happen. You basically reset any buff that you have in front of you that you've already paid for, basically untaps, and you're going to have to pay to use it again. But also, before you shuffle your deck, which will have a lot of new cards that you've gotten, you're allowed to take one of your cards from your deck, discard it, and take the next higher level card, or discard a card from your deck. Let's say I had a 3 Moxie and I don't really want to use Moxie. You can discard it and take the same number, but of a different type. This will continue on until one of the players has a chance, or they think they can take out the Naughty Sorceress. In that instance, everyone takes 1 non-combat. They get together the biggest strength or the biggest attack they can possibly pull off, and whoever can defeat the Naughty Sorceress of level 20 and has the highest total is the winner of the game. Now I'm usually wary of licenses because you're never sure how people might be the company making it might be trying to make a fast buck off people who like the license. If you're coming to this from a Kingdom of Loathing fan point, I think this game is going to hit on the mark. I knew everything in this game. Every single card I knew because I've run across them at some point in time. And the different monsters, the different weapons, the different stats, the different skills. Some of the skill cards, when I bought it, I was like, yeah, I have that skill now. I wish I could get that in the game. Things like that. There's some really cool features here if you like the game. So the game's flavor is very pervasive here. And I think even if you don't like the game, you at least get some of the humor, because some of the monsters, like for example, here's some monsters from the Spooky Raven Manor. There's a guy with a pitchfork and his wife, a skeleton butler, a tap dancing skeleton, a cubist bull, a floating platter of hors d'oeuvres, a malevolent hair clog. And so there's a lot of funny things in the game, and they have a lot of text in the cards too that's also from the game. But as with all these games, see Munchkin, what happens if you take the humor out? Well, folks, I think there's actually a fairly solid game here. Now, it's a little creaky around the corners. It probably could have been streamlined a little bit more, but, and I might get some flack for saying this game gives almost the same scratching itch that the Pathfinder adventure card game does. Because essentially you're getting your weapons here, and you're going around and you're fighting monsters, and you're trying to find better, bigger monsters to fight, and there is some deck building to the game. The game is obviously one where you're going to build a deck and try to build a better deck, but the deck building is almost secondary to trying to figure out where you're going to go next. What skills are you going to buy? You're basically gearing up your adventure each turn to go fight, and you can level up pretty fast. Now, the Naughty Sorcerer's level 20 makes for a pretty short game. The box here says an hour. I think that's very reasonable. If you bring it up to level 25, that actually lengthens the game out quite a bit, because getting to level 25 from level 20 is a little harder. There are some negative things, I think. First of all, it's a Kickstarter publication. How do I know that? Because they spent lots of pages, 2 whole pages here, with a whole bunch of names, and didn't put a lot of rules in the game. It took me a while to figure out that defense was actually an attack, which is not very intuitive. I know it makes sense from game perspective, but I wish they had been very clear about that. They also included a lot of cool Kickstarter stretch goals in the box that I have no idea how we're supposed to use them. Some nemesis. I mean, I can guess at how they're supposed to be used, and they look really cool, but that would have been cooler. I also wish, for each of these monster decks, when the monsters of a specific deck run out, you're supposed to shuffle them and put them back in, etc. And that's all well and good, but I really wish they had doubled the number of monsters at each location. Maybe that's an expansion, but I think they could have started with that. More variety. There certainly is enough monsters in the game itself now that they could have added that in, and I think it would have added some more variety. I'm not saying there's not a lot of variety. The class skills, the different equipment, the different ways you can go. You can decide to be a wizard. You can decide to be an accordion thief. You can decide, there's lots of different choices that you have. So, all that being said, I'm still giving this game a very positive review. For people, I played this with people who knew nothing about Kingdom of Loathing, for just the gameplay itself, and they found it very enjoyable, and a possible interest to go play the computer game, which I'm sure that people are hoping this, happens with this. For me, who was a big fan of it, I liked it because not only did it do justice to the game that I enjoyed, but it also was a solid game on top of that. Now, the box is probably a little too big for what it is. It comes with dividers that you can divide all different cards, but then it comes with a plastic insert that doesn't work with those. So I guess you're supposed to throw the plastic insert out. I like the amount of stuff in here. I would like to see more. I'd like to see this expanded upon. I don't know if it will be or not, but I think the whole thing is a cool concept. They managed to take the Kingdom of Loathing humor, an interesting game, stick it in here, take a lot of the concepts of the game, and put them in here. They simplified a lot of the stuff, and I have no problem with that. But it's fun. You should go try out Kingdom of Loathing. It's a fun online computer game. But I also think you should check out Mr. Card Game.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.
Shut the door.
There.